another watch party for a Tuesday as we get this week flowing a little bit. Apologies for my, I guess, standard now lateness, 5 minutes worth. I think you guys can pretty much bank on that. But you know what? The times that you don't, I'm sorry, I'm doing something at the same time as I'm talking to y'all. The times that you may assume I'm going to be in here a little bit late, that's when I'm going to be on time. There's always something going on, you guys. Apologies again, but I'm glad you guys are here. If you guys like what we're doing, of course, continue to share the stream, continue to like the damn thing, and also subscribe if you haven't yet. But if you're here, I feel like you might already be there. But you know, you have to say the standards. A lot happening as usual. A lot of it also not very appealing to the future of this country because the kinds of folks that are running it are continuing to destroy it and use it for their own purposes of stealing from us and controlling every aspect of our lives. Yeah, it's the normal story. I swear, I look for other things. I hope other things are happening, but there's so many important things going on that people should be aware of because the reasons we've gotten to this point many times is because folks literally don't know the basic things that are happening. Forget the in-depth ways that wonks, political wonks like us get into. It's just a basic understanding of how things work and the way that they're manipulating those things to continue to work in their favor. Uh, I did want to point out, Miss Anonymous. Yes, thank you for pointing out that I'm on time. I'm sorry, not Miss Anonymous. You pointed out, but Abby Normal. I mean, get the naming, the spelling of my name right. Come on, bro. What's going on here? Sifting through a few of you guys. Good to see you, of course. May Money is in the building. What's up to you as well? Pitchforks Dragon, as always. I love seeing the dragons in here. You guys will flow in. And Dexter Wong, haven't seen from Moms yet. I wonder what's going on. I guess she's taking the day off from the bad news. But we will get in depth and as things break down. I wanted to go to something I don't think anyone is talking about. It's one of the things that I want to make sure gets highlighted because you'll see it on certain outlets. I want to give credit to Right Wing Watch. They uncover so many things. Many times, these religious conservatives that are basically carrying water for the Republican Party, and in this point, the fascist Republican Party, no matter what it is that they're doing, because they're in it to make some more money. But if you guys remember, during the campaign, Project 2025 was not even a big, I guess, point, but it was big enough in circles where people understand the direction that this party's going. The head of that organization right now, Heritage Foundation's Kevin Roberts. In case you guys don't remember, we're going to get to the background of who he is. But I want to show you guys what he's been up to. He was speaking at an ALEC conference, and he had this to say. Always the first one. Always the first one. Let's go.
We are in the Second American Revolution. We are renewing sovereignty and self-governance and faith in fellow man. Something that's close to my heart because my adopted hometown is Austin, Texas, a once great place that's been taken over by Marxists. When we have cities like Austin or Nashville or other capital cities whose local government is not representative of the will of the people, de-charter them and establish them as state municipal districts in the name of common sense. If you ask me, yeah, that'll make the news. We can provide air cover too. If that's a promise, if you do that. If you ask me, Kevin, what's the biggest threat to this common sense agenda that Trump and Vance have laid out and that we all agree with mostly? It's that. It's that there are government entities that illegitimately are imposing something other than the American dream on their people.
That's Kevin Roberts speaking like a Nazi, implementing Nazi-style rhetoric towards folks that are at this legislative convention. I want to repeat what he said in there in case you guys don't fully understand what it was. He says that these ALEC members, these are legislators, should de-charter capital cities that apparently don't do the will of the people. These capital cities where the leadership is voted in by the people. decharter them, and then make them state municipal districts under the control of these rogue MAGA fascist type of people. Completely undo local governments and local elections in the way that they represent their people, because we know that's where it always starts. Many times the policies that are from local to state types of policies, like abortion rights, those are things that destroy people's lives more directly. So he wants to continue to target those things. So in trying to have this full fascist takeover, if there's any kind of democratically elected folks that are doing the will of the people, he calls it not the will of the people because he's a fascist. And you just claim just randomly they're not doing the will of the people. They only voted these folks in. But for some reason, when Donald Trump narrowly wins an election, they call that a mandate. And they say he's doing the bidding of the entire country who wanted him to do this, as his approval rating dangles around 30%. But still, he's doing the bidding of the American people. It's what they want. It's just declarative statements to make it seem like that they care about what it is that American people want, when in reality, they're using those lines to convince people that for some reason they're doing the bidding of the American people. Let me show you who Kevin Roberts was during the election and what it was that he was talking about that set off so many alarm bells and then made people say, yo, listen, maybe you guys don't want to vote in these fascists that are now implementing fascist type of rhetoric and this type of an agenda. Watch.
Well, Professor, my great friend, thanks for filling in and doing a great job. Three things. Number one, in spite of all this nonsense from the left, we are going to win. We're in the process of taking this country back. No one in the audience should be despairing. No one should be discouraged. We ought to be really encouraged by what happened yesterday. And in spite of all of the injustice, which of course, friends and audience of this show, of our friend Steve know, we are going to prevail. Number two, to the point of the clips and of course, your preview of the fact that I am an early American historian and love the Constitution, that Supreme Court ruling yesterday on immunity is vital. And it's vital for a lot of reasons, but I would go to Federalist number 70 if people in the audience are looking for something to read over Independence Day weekend, in addition to rereading the Declaration of Independence. Read Hamilton's number 70, because there, along with some other essays, he talks about the importance of a vigorous executive. You know, former congressman, the importance of Congress doing its job, but we also know the importance of the executive being able to do his job. And can you imagine, Dave Bratt, any president, put politics off to the side, any president having to second guess, triple guess every decision they're making in their official capacity? You couldn't have the republic that you just described. But number three, let me speak about the radical left. You and I have both been parts of faculties and faculty senates and understand that the left has taken over our institutions. The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily, is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
That's who Kevin Roberts was. That was July of last year. And that's who he is now, as he's implementing or trying to, or at least telling these folks at this conference to implement more of these fascist types of policies. But as he pointed out there at the back end, I'm sure folks who paid attention always saw that part where he was talking about this American Revolution that he's pushing for will be bloodless as long as the left allows it to be. Okay, so we saw all that, heard it all. It was pointed out, it was highlighted. People still voted for it because they either said he was joking, he was trolling the left, he's just being an online guy. This is just so funny. Can't believe you guys are crying over it. So again, as he's talking about bloody, it won't be crying, it'll be bloody. It'll be attacks, it'll be fighting back. Because again, he's a hostile terrorist who's running an organization that tells our legislators that kowtow to this president exactly what to do. Matter of fact, off the top, I was talking about how he wants to legitimize these capital cities and turn them into these state municipal districts, decharter them, because, he can just do that. But during also in that speech, he had some things to say about sovereignty. It's like he doesn't know what that means, or maybe even democracy. Here's what he said also, because this is more from right-wing watch, as they pointed out. Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts urged right-wing state legislators this month to decharter these liberal capital cities, just the liberal ones, and replace them with these state municipal districts, as I pointed out. So in this speech to a gathering at the American Legislative Executive Council, he said, "We are in the Second American Revolution," and he explained that they're renewing this sovereignty and self-governance and a faith in fellow man. He has no faith in the fellow man that doesn't agree with his fascist thoughts, but also this line about renewing sovereignty and self-governance at the same time looking to delegitimize these cities that he doesn't like and replace them with toothless organizations or toothless leadership that have actually no power to represent those people. It's like he doesn't know what those words mean. He also showed no apparent recognition of the glaring inconsistency, as I'm pointing out, between his declared support for the sovereignty and self-governance that he's talking about, that he hates so much, and the way that these voters actually voted in these people that he doesn't like. So these are the folks we're dealing with. And like I've said before, George W. Bush said it during his presidency when he attacked Iraq, and he called everyone terrorists. He said terrorists only understand violence. You can't do anything as far as negotiating with terrorists. We don't negotiate with terrorists. We attack terrorists because the terrorists attack us. So if you stand there and go, let's talk while they're shooting you in the face, there's no talking. There's only shooting in the face. That's what this guy is pushing for. They say lofty type of rhetoric and make it seem like it's the American dream, it's the golden era, the will of the people, things like that, that actually don't mean what it means. Here's more of what he said at that same conference in using this kind of language to somehow fool people into believing that all this is on the up and up. Watch.
Next year, Heritage will again be publishing, for the first time in over a decade, the Index of Cultural Flourishing. We have the Index of Economic Freedom, which is an international publication of economic freedom of different countries. Not surprisingly, the United States has been slipping. We have the Index of Military Strength, very important, especially right now, as Secretary Hegseth leads a great reform of the Pentagon. We have, as many of you know, indices on election integrity, on education freedom. In a lot of ways, as Jonathan and Lisa would say about their own similar products, those are the most helpful things to you. But the reason we're reprising the Index of Cultural Flourishing is to provide data for this question. Is everything we're doing in public policy at the state level, at the federal level, at the local level, in the spirit of the 250th birthday of the greatest civil society ever known to man, focused on allowing families and individuals to flourish, not just economically, but also, very importantly, socially and culturally, and if they so choose, religiously? If we start thinking about all of our policy decisions through that lens, then I can tell you that America's 250th birthday next year will actually be the beginning of a second 250th period in which we continue to be the last best hope in the world.
He says a lot, and he uses, again, these flowing terms that are so inspirational for people who don't fully understand what it is that he's talking about. They got these indices. They got the Index of Cultural Flourishing that he's stressing in this particular point. But what the part of that is, as he asked the question, is everything we're doing in local level all the way up to the federal level in the spirit of America's 250th birthday and in the spirit of the will of the people, which he thinks he can control. And they're going to focus on allowing families to flourish socially and culturally, not just financially. How will the people flourishing financially? Every time they talk about they're bringing in billions of dollars, which they're bringing into these oligarchs' pockets and nowhere else, because people's prices are still going up, their jobs are being lost, and inflation is rising. But so where's that financial flourishing happening? They just say it's happening when it's not. But they'll also claim that cultural flourishing has to do with beating down other folks that you consider inferior to you. That's what white supremacists think. That's why this terrorist white supremacist is up here saying this type of stuff, because that's how he believes culturally that they have this superior culture. They don't really have a culture. They just steal other people's culture and other people's lands and other people's lives. They do that. And then they act like there's this superiority complex that they need to heap on everyone else to just live beneath them. And they use terms like, are we going to flourish? In the thought, in the spirit of America's 250th birthday, America was born on enslaving people. America's financial advantages over the world were built on enslaving people and using free labor as part of that genocide where they killed and murdered people and maimed and dismembered them and separated them from families. All that happened in the spirit of this country's 250 years, he wants to go back to that. So he's clearly saying it. He's just saying it like it's this glorious vision that he's got in his mind of suppression of other people's rights and lives and liberties because they're not Americans. So that's Kevin Roberts. I'm going to get to what this whole ALEC thing is, but just in case you guys fully don't know who this guy is, he's one of the most dangerous people, I think, in the country. He was the guy who was celebrating J.D. Vance getting the vice presidential nod, because when that happened, people were shaking their head like, J.D. Vance, this guy is completely uninspirational. Nobody really likes the guy. He's a fake. He just called Donald Trump America's Hitler the year before he was chosen to be Donald Trump's running mate. But this guy loved him because he's always got plans ahead. Here's more of what he was talking about before this election went down, because he was very stressed about how much they need to win this. This is very important to him.
Seb Gorka, I'm an early American historian, and so I would be one of the last people to say that a particular presidential election is the most important in history. We've had a lot of those, but just speaking as a dad and a husband and the leader of this great organization, I'm hard pressed to think of a presidential election, an election cycle period in modern American history where there's more at stake. The radical left has run roughshod through our institutions. We are very peacefully and steadily and with calm and resolve with this plan and with great leaders like President Trump going to steadily and resolutely take back these institutions from the radical left. It's a tall order, my friend, but I remain very hopeful that we're going to do it. And by the end of this decade, be very grateful for all of the sacrifices that people have made, starting with President Trump's heroism.
It was the most important thing for them to get this guy in office. So as they continue to praise him and treat him like some kind of emperor that's going to suppress your rights, and then also as any democratic institutions or democratic normals happen in the country, they're looking to make sure those don't happen either. They're absolutely against the things that they claim to be for, only for themselves. Sounds a lot like one of the guys that Mehdi Hassan had debated at that Jubilee videos that went all over the place, when they said we only need to have democratic elections. This was the guy who vocally admitted that he's a fascist. We only need to have these democratic elections once, so then after that we can suppress everyone's rights and shut all that down and just rule over people. That's what he said explicitly and openly. This guy just says it with more flowing and flowery terms, but he's saying the same thing. You know why? Because you know what? They're all fascists. That's how they operate. That's how they think, but it's not all that complicated to look at. So as he declared how they need to have this guy in office to make sure he pulls off all the things that they do, as they're pulling it off, he has these smirks on his face where he's enjoying the process that's happening. And wait, there's so much more that's going to happen. This is, again, before so much more continues to happen. I'm going through all the small details of how they're breaking all this down because we don't pay close enough attention to it. Because again, as a part of the Project 2025 plan is to flood the zone with all of the chaos and the nonsense and the fighting, so that people like Kevin Roberts can go behind the scenes and brag about these types of things.
The good news, I told you I would tell you why it's bad, maybe add a little bit of color, but also tell you why we're going to win. We are winning. There are a lot of victories that have been secured. Some of them are partial, some of them in ways that the other side doesn't yet know are foundations for what's coming. And that's just the beginning. And we're not going to tell you everything that's coming, because for the first time that I'm aware of, the conservative movement, or as I really like to put it, the common sense movement in the United States, has really nothing to do with ideology, is ready to fight.
There's more things in place, and we're ready to fight. I want you guys to imagine if any other political figure or someone who was controlling political figures said things like that. They said, we're ready to fight. It's going to be bloody. We're going to take over these these conservative cities and turn them into toothless entities that we control because they're not doing the will of the people. I mean, we can say they're not doing the will of the people. Look at the approval ratings. Look at the prosperity that people have outside of the rich oligarchs that control all this. Those things actually are true that we could be saying. But so in order to progress their agenda, they have to flip reality on its head, which they've been doing ever since, I mean, forever, but specifically since Donald Trump came down that escalator and called 2 + 2 27, and then people just buy into it. It's how these guys operate. But someone that speaks and rages like this could have the same amount of power as that one fascist, again, that was at that Mehdi Hassan debate on Jubilee. What really, who cares, right? Except this guy runs the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation is then talking to ALEC. If you guys don't know what ALEC is, I pointed out the acronym, but I'm going to show you more about what ALEC really is and reasons why what he says means more, because he's talking to these folks. Look at this. Again, more from, this is from a right-wing watch. They break all this down well. You can think of ALEC as a matchmaker between corporations and right-wing lawmakers willing to do their bidding. Or you can think of it as a form of conspicuous corruption, a pay-to-play arena in which corporate sponsors buy the opportunity to write business-friendly legislation and present it to legislators eager to endear themselves with potential funders. Legislators often return home after ALEC gatherings like this one and introduce copies of ALEC's model bills. Do you guys remember that time that Joe Manchin was busted, or at least one of the executives from Mobil, I believe it was Mobil Oil Company, was busted talking about, there was like this unseen video before where he talked about how they write policy and implement things that benefit their business and whatever their interests are, and hand it over to people like Joe Manchin who will do it eagerly. It happens like this. And they come to these conventions and people like this guy from the Heritage Foundation go and tell groups of ALEC, where it's supposed to be legislators, having this exchange of ideas, when in reality, it's them writing bills that will benefit them. And these guys blindly take the piece of paper and the money because they've just been bribed and go into their legislative sessions, all collectively together to do the same thing, which is advance these oligarchs. Donald Trump did not usher in oligarchs. Donald Trump just doesn't hide it as well as they've all done before. It's why this election was so important to Kevin Roberts, so they could implement this stuff under Donald Trump's loudmouth ass, screaming every day and distracting from one thing to the next while they destroy your life, backed by all these conservative legislators in Congress. As people ask, I wonder why these Republicans in Congress aren't doing anything, from the disaster of their bill to this Epstein stuff that they're still trying to cover up for Donald Trump because they need him there. They all hated him before. They all need him there because they're being paid by their oligarchs as well. There's more to this. More about what ALEC is and how this guy is manipulating it. This is their history. They've been around for 50 years. ALEC has sometimes been aligned with religious, think about this, religious right culture war priorities. I'm going to say it again. I messed that up. ALEC has sometimes been aligned with religious right culture war priorities. A particularly offensive 1985 policy memo promoted egregious stereotypes to justify opposing the gay rights movement goal of passing anti-discrimination legislation. So, for example, the ALEC memo falsely claimed that pedophilia was, quote, one of the more dominant practices within the homosexual world. Kind of weird how that's the policy and approach and mindset that these conservatives have been pushing since forever, despite the fact that we've seen in actual numbers the people who carry out types of sexual assault, specifically pedophilia, are generally straight white males. We've seen it. You can say I'm biased, you can say I'm going after people that aren't like me, but straight up, that's what the stats say. And if you see arrest records, if you see the kinds of things that are hidden, if you see what's going on with the Epstein situation right now, how much are we covering for these people? How much are we covering for the white dude who had also the white woman with him, who had white clientele? I'm sure there's plenty of people of other ethnicities and backgrounds that were part of the client list. But the people running this and the folks who have all the money like this, they're the ones that are continuing to be protected with ridiculous types of explanations as to why they're being covered for. Because they get paid. Our apparatus as a government to this level has been corrupt for a long time. They're just taking it to new levels because, we need more money and more control over you. There's more. ALEC also, again, the way that we think about gay folks are supposed to be pedophiles and they're coming after your children. That was the push from these types of things. Here's another push. ALEC also played a part in promoting the manufactured panic about critical race theory that right-wing groups have used to sow distrust of public schools and encourage right-wing activists to take over local school boards, which they were doing. ALEC's anti-CRT efforts fit within the group's history of promoting profit-making privatization of education while resisting accountability for private schools. The education department's been taken over by Linda McMahon. Donald Trump said he's going to put her in place just to shut the whole thing down. And as they privatize our education system and neglect kids that have special needs, physical needs, a lot of times minority communities and neighborhoods that they'll look to defund to put to more richer institutions that don't even need it. The battle's going on in Texas for that right now. I've done stories on that. You guys can check those out. It's explicit and it's blatant. So they put in culture war policies that go after anti-CRT legislation. Look how fast we saw that get implemented by this administration. And also making sure that there's a continuing fear of LGBTQ plus rights, a fear of it, so that people can go along with it and not realize that their rights are being taken away. And that if you live in one of these cities that he wants to get rid of and take the teeth out of any of their power to actually represent the folks who voted for them, you voted for this, right? So let me go ahead and tie the whole thing together here. Because again, as I pointed out, the same guy, Kevin Roberts, was celebrating this guy named JD Vance getting that nod. JD Vance was speaking at some of these other summits at Heritage Foundation, and you won't be surprised as how much he loves them some Heritage Foundation.
And I want to thank especially Kevin Roberts and all of the Heritage Foundation for 50 years of incredible work on conservative policy. The old famous.
He's thanking them and he loves him some Kevin Roberts and Heritage Foundation's 50 years of doing all that stuff that I just described. And what that stuff has done is caused divisions, it's caused horrific policy, and it's caused the lack of people's rights being granted to them. And when that guy's put in place, they start doing things like eliminating your due process and not following the Constitution. You don't believe me?
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says.
I don't know. It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. But some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
He has a different interpretation. The question was, don't you have to follow the Constitution? I don't know. My lawyers tell me no. And don't you have to provide due process to people based on the Constitution? No. I was voted in to break the Constitution. I was voted in place to ignore the rule of law. It's what he said. That's not brand new. That's not brand new. These are the folks we need to focus on. People like Kevin Roberts. He's a terrorist in this country. And just because he's not walking around with a long gun and pointing at people's face doesn't mean that he's not destroying people's lives and killing folks, because he is. That's the whole plan. That's what murderous fascists do. And they've got their guy there in place. I got more to talk about. But again, I want to remind you guys, if you guys just got into this depressing story, it's actually digging deep to understand how our government works and who actually controls it. These aren't conspiracy theories. This is right there on tape as they talk about what it is they want to do with the government and whether or not you can sit there and applaud it and watch the whole time. As they talk about having bloody revolutions against the people. But apparently the will of the people is to do that while they attack the people. It doesn't make any sense. You guys drop a like if you enjoy what's going on. I know we've already jumped in half an hour into this. I know I was 5 minutes late, you guys, but we're already half hour into this. Let's jump to this next story. It does involve more of Donald Trump, but I saw him go on that trip to Scotland over the weekend to open up his golf course. That's literally the reason that he went. And I thought it was a weekend trip. It's Tuesday, bro. And this guy this morning on Tuesday, which is not a weekend, continued to hang out, play some golf. But the main purpose was to open his golf course at the expense of taxpayers to the tune of $10 million is some of the estimates that I saw going down. Check out how happy he was, though.
To all of our great friends, thank you very much. So I'll be playing quickly, and then I'll be heading back, and I look forward to that, but I really look forward to playing. So thank you, everybody, and thank you to the media. The media's been terrific, believe it or not. I didn't use the word fake news one time, not one time. Today, they're not fake news. Today, they're wonderful news. But I just want to thank you. They've treated us really well, and they respect what we've done really at a level that you rarely see nowadays. So I really very much appreciate it.
They're not fake news as long as he's being treated the way he wants to. As long as he's not being asked questions about what it is that he's doing. They're wonderful news today because I'm opening a golf course in Scotland and taxpayers are paying for that to happen. Imagine any other president in history. I mean, I guess recent history. I'm sure back in the day it happened too. But in any recent history, trying to open up their own golf course in another country and then getting paid by the American taxpayers to do it openly and blatantly. So openly and blatantly enough, this guy had a whole ribbon cutting ceremony and they posted it. They posted it on the White House's official account and they ran the whole damn near, what was it, 45 minutes worth of this event where Donald Trump is standing there with his big scissors and his two sons ready to cut the ribbon on this golf course. And they posted that on the White House page on like their socials. They want to make sure that people see that he's benefiting financially, directly and personally off of your back. But you're the lazy person. You're the person that's get off of the couch just to get your health care in order to live a normal life. How many hours did you work before you got your health care that you already paid into the system to get? How much has he worked? The guy went from that particular point to then go on swinging golf clubs, and he played a stupid ass song. Went on to take a shot and then play the course before he comes back home from his little vacation where he continues to ignore the will of the people and act like he's doing something else. It's just, it's blatant corruption in your face. And if somebody points it out, you're un-American. Like, we used to understand what corruption was. I'd love for them to tell me what actual corruption is if this isn't. So while he was there, of course, he knows he's gonna have people like me. They're gonna point out how he's doing nothing but playing golf and making money on this trip. So he has to lie a couple times and talk about things that he actually is doing there.
One yesterday, as you know, we stopped a war,
Oh, yeah.
but we stopped about 5 wars. So that's much more important than playing golf. As much as I like it, it's much more important. I want to just thank Sarah Malone for having been with us right from the beginning. She was young and not experienced. Now she's still young and very experienced. So I just want to thank you. And
Can somebody ask him which 5 wars he stopped? We've stopped wars. I mean, we stopped 5 wars. I mean, it's not like we didn't bomb Iran's nuclear facilities. It's not like we've continued to pay for this genocide in the Middle East. It's not like any of that's happening. It's not like we've been ignoring this purposeful starvation policy in Gaza as well to add on to this genocide that we're carrying out. It's not like we haven't figured out a way to get any kind of clamps on this Ukraine and Russia conflict. No, he's ended all kinds of wars everywhere. He also talked the other day about how he ended the genocide he ended what was going on in Rwanda from the 90s. This guy just says things and we're expected to sit here and just listen to it and act like it's real. He's ended 4 to 5 wars, despite the fact that he's talked openly about how he's frustrated with Vladimir Putin not listening to him after he said when he was campaigning he's going to end that war in 24 hours. I wouldn't be surprised if a dude stood in front of a mic and said, "You guys know that war was over in 24 hours, right? What are you guys talking about?" Of course, that's what it is. So obviously, again, people will point out how much of a lie that is, but they need certain happy and water-carrying media to continue to push those same lies. So in comes Fox.
Going to be a special decade, and we're going to make all of our countries strong and great and really wonderful again, and that's happening.
All right, there you have it,
fast.
President Trump and that beautiful scene in Scotland. The president mixing business with a personal matter there, opening the Trump International Golf Links in Aberdeen, and you can tell that he wove in those two bits of news with talking about trade and foreign policy and thanking people for the opening of his new golf course.
Yeah, he stopped a war, he said, presumably the war between Thailand and Cambodia, unless there was another war that popped up that we are unfamiliar with. He also said Sean Connery pushed for this course to be built. I did not know that. We will ask more questions later on. Maybe Lawrence knows. We go to Lawrence Jones now with a look at what's coming up on Fox. Did you know about the Sean Connery connection to the course?
I got a spoiler. I get the feeling they didn't ask more details about the things that he was talking about. But did you hear the terms that the anchor used? She goes, Trump is mixing business with a personal matter. Which one of those things have anything to do with the American people? They blatantly say it. If you just listen to the sentence that is mentioned, Trump is mixing business for himself with a personal matter, which is playing golf. Why are we paying for this trip again? Why is he there? To talk about how he's ended 5 wars when he hasn't? Or to talk about the trade deals that he's carried out? Because, you know, he's in Scotland, so he's got to talk about the trade deals, right? Let's talk about the trade deals. Let's listen to what he said about the trade deals that are going on, because, again, he has to provide some kind of cover for why he's there and act like he's doing something.
And loves the place, loves the area. So I just want to thank him very much for coming. And we gave him a little preview. And it was really very nice. And we just signed a very big deal, as you know, with the European Union, but also with the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom was a week before, and it's a very big deal and a great deal for the country, and it's a great deal for everybody. So I just want to thank him and everybody that worked so hard on it. They've been trying to get it done for 12 years. We got it done. So somebody did a good job and loves the place.
Who was trying to get a deal done with the UK and the EU for the last 12 years? Who was that? And what deal was that? I mean, he's literally saying there was nothing in place, zero trade agreement at all in place until he came along to fix something that wasn't broken, to fix something that he manufactured as a problem before he then found a way to siphon more money from your pockets and put it back into his. That's the entire plan. That's all it is. Because in case you guys don't know, there's a thing you can do. You can read on the details of these bills. I mean, these deals, quote unquote, that are all they are is an increase in tariffs that we then pay for. But also, even on the face of it, as they talk about all the exchanges that happened, this is the reality. This is the reality. As he's talking about these deals, the details remain murky. This is the one with the EU. Europe will increase its investment in the United States by $600 billion and commit to buying $750 billion worth of U.S. energy products. Wow, that's impressive. It eliminates tariffs on a variety of items. It eliminates tariffs that Donald Trump arbitrarily put in place, including aircraft and plane parts, semiconductors, generic drugs, and some chemicals and agricultural products. Mary Obstfeld, a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics, note, this is the important part, many of those investments that we just talked about of $600 billion and $750 billion were already in place. And the agreement appears to do little to eliminate EU's non-tariff barriers, such as value-added and digital taxes that the Trump administration had railed against. In other words, in other words, it's nothing. The stuff that they're touting is already in place. It just increases tariffs from what it was like 2% to 15%. or maybe 20 in this case. They keep dancing around 15 to 25% for all these folks. And by the way, there's a limited amount on it when it comes to importing European cars here. It's for like their first 100,000. That could be for the UK deal. Who cares? None of it really means anything because all it is a tax increase on everyone else buying anything here. And how many people are shipping their cars over to other seas? They get lower tariffs there, but we're paying money here. So those billions of dollars he wants to keep talking about are coming out of our pockets. It's the same story every day. There's more to this. There's more to this deal that he made that's so great. Watch. Speaking of America first, this agreement also deals another blow. When they say another blow, it's because the one with the deal, quote unquote, with Japan also dealt a blow to American car makers. So this deals another blow to Detroit automakers, which objected to a similar deal that the Trump administration reached with Japan. The 15% auto tariff on EU cars imported to the US undercuts the 25% tariff that American automakers pay if their cars are built in Mexico. And that's the push that they always have, is that, yo, if you don't want that 25% tariff because you build in Mexico, just bring your plants here. And that takes decades. They don't mean anything that they say. Again, read the details of every bill that they go out and tout, because sometimes at the end of it, he accidentally admits, we didn't do anything but just slap tariffs on people. That's really all we did. Because remember those letters that they sent out to Mr. China and Mr. Japan? Those letters that they sent out are actually just demand letters. And if you don't follow it, it's going to get higher. And again, that comes back to us. That's not a threat to these other countries. That's a threat to us. And yes, they still want the market, but they don't care if the things they import there now at these different levels are being paid at a higher cost from the American consumers. Who cares, bro? We're still trading. More. Is this some of the responses from the officials in the EU over this bill? It does mean that there will now be higher tariffs than there have been, and this will have an impact on the trade between the EU and the US, making it more expensive and more challenging. That's what our Department of Tausig said. I never know how to pronounce that, but it's their economic department. They're talking about what it is that will come from this. They know it. They point it out. Last of this breakdown. So I'd always bring these things. I understand that it's a lot of detailed readings of these bills, but when they say the thing so plainly as if it's glorious, it's worth it to break it down. So with the agreement in the EU-US negotiations on tariffs trade conflict, which would have hit the export-oriented German economy hard, it's been avoided. So they just avoided that aspect because, they still want to trade. This is especially true for the auto industry, for which the current tariffs of 27.5% were almost halved to 15%. Especially here, the quick tariff reduction is of great significance, is what they all added, because they're happy to continue to send their German cars here. Now, it quoted a 27.5% tariff. That's not like that was the tariff before Donald Trump came into office and said, we're going to slap a 50% tariff on the entire world. Oh, we'll reduce it to 27.5. Oh, we had a deal. We'll reduce it down to 25 to 15%. All of it. I know you're tired of hearing me say it. All of it comes right back to higher costs for us here. If you're tired of me saying it, listen to Jessica Tarloff say it. Maybe she says it better. I don't know. We'll see.
We essentially had favored nations with the EU paying about 1% import. So 15% is a lot more than 1%. And I rarely say that I wish somebody else would take my seat, at least for this segment, but I wish Charlie Gasparino was sitting here right now to explain to Jesse again how tariffs work, because it is a tax on the American consumer. The American consumer knows that. That's why they don't rate Trump particularly highly on how to handle inflation, cost of living, tariffs, and trade wars. And you also see headlines like Walmart raising prices up to 51%. They're doing that because they're not going to eat the tariff. They're going to pass it on to you. Volkswagen, profits down 1.5 billion. GM, profits down 1 billion. Why is that? Because of these trade wars that Donald Trump created. Now, there is this 20 billion in revenue that's coming in, right? I've seen the headlines. I've seen the panicans backing off. But if it weren't going to be a clear line to raising your individual prices. Why is Donald Trump and Josh Hawley now wants to get in on it, talking about rebate checks for the American public? They want another opportunity for Donald Trump to smack his signature, which has been all over the place as we've seen recently,
Not
on
with an
another
AutoPen.
rebate, not with an auto pen, on rebate checks so that the American public won't hate him for the fact that he is raising their cost of living. And that is what is going on here.
Did you see the response? That only thing Gutfeld could come up with is talking about auto pens. They have zero responses every time facts are presented to them. Every time. So isn't it an increase? I wish that was the next thing that said. Don't let the conversation move on again until we say, am I lying or are you lying? This is a direct discussion about the reality. But instead, auto pen has to come up. You understand that's a distraction to get people to go, let me wash my brain of all the information that was just given to me that I should probably already know because I'm paying more for everything that I'm buying. So again, these are the trade deals that Donald Trump is apparently pulling off. It's the same trade deal with everyone else. And that trade deal equals nothing. It equals us paying more. Every time they say there's billions of dollars coming into American coffers, that's billions of dollars coming from your pockets into oligarchs' pockets. Those are the coffers that are getting filled. One more story, you guys. Only got 10 minutes. Maybe you guys saw this. We had another mass shooting. This one a little bit different than others. This man was caught on apparently a surveillance video or a camera walking into a building with some pretty big named companies and corporations that house themselves there. And multiple people were killed, including an NYPD police officer. This happened in the middle of Manhattan. NBC News talked about it better than I could. Check this out.
Active shooter. We're getting multiple calls from 345 Park Avenue.
Tonight, police swarming this skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan after at least 2 people were shot, 1 police officer and 1 civilian, according to 2 senior law enforcement officers. 4 senior New York City officials say the suspected gunman, Shane Devin Tamura of Las Vegas, is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound on the 33rd floor of the building. Earlier, the NYPD circulated this photo of a person with a long gun they say they were searching for in connection with the shooting, according to 3 senior law enforcement sources. The building, 345 Park Avenue, is the headquarters of the NFL, Blackstone, and accounting firm KPMG.
This is Blackstone headquarters, 345 Park Avenue, approximately 100 people hiding.
It all began around 6 p.m. as people were heading home for the day. Those inside told to shelter in place. You can see the section of Midtown Manhattan is completely cordoned off. A large police presence. 345 Park Avenue is just down that way. I was just speaking to one man who did not want to appear on camera. He told me that his wife is inside the building. She's on the 23rd floor. She said she's okay, but he's waiting for her to get out. Tonight, there is a massive police presence, but the NYPD says this scene is contained.
So yes, another mass shooting, another tragedy, more people dead at the hands of someone carrying a big, long gun and going into buildings and shooting folks up. Apparently there was a suicide note at the end of it all, because he did have a self-inflicted gunshot wound, as they pointed out, talking about how he has CTE and maybe that's part of the NFL thing he's going in that building for, but also he had some mental health issues as well. This is one of those cases. They're looking for more motives and figuring out exactly why and what and all that stuff. But anytime anyone has these types of visions of going and murdering a bunch of people, I pretty much think we can assume there's some level of some mental health issues going on, or at least a level of, murderous tendencies, homicidal tendencies that I don't think are normal. I mean, but, as we keep seeing literal government policy that is murderous and genocidal, I mean, I guess it's a little more normalized than we could have thought before. So, of course, in response to a lot of this stuff, there's folks who have different perspectives of what is that could have been done. Of course, one of the first thought processes is, why are people still allowed? Of course, it's a rhetorical question. Why are people still allowed to have access, such easy access with potential mental health issues, CTE, as he said in his suicide letter, to have access to these types of guns so simply where they can just murder anyone? It's odd, right? But this retired New York police officer on Fox News had a different take of how we should approach this. I know this is an offshoot from the tragedy that happened, but this is the way people talk about these to distract from the real problem that's behind this.
Well, we see it again. And there's talk of more police officers. There's talk of, more omnipresence. And I definitely agree with much of what Paul and Nicole were saying. But we need to deputize ourselves. Sean, let's take you as an example. My understanding is you train really hard in MMA. I'm guessing you train with your firearm as well. We each need to empower ourselves not to be a victim. Bystander apathy is what occurred, is the term used as this gentleman walked, this Freeton walked with a long gun down the street. No one said anything. I'd be curious to see how many 911 calls were made. We need to empower ourselves, deputize ourselves. If you would have seen that person, I guess you would have acted a lot different, as would have I. These businesses that have security in the lobbies, there's a knee-jerk reaction. They may enhance it, but they do a cost-benefit analysis, and it'll go right back to the same. Only when we respect police officers, when respect is given back to the police officers, when we end this defund the police, when we end these sending in therapists or counselors, will people respect and, yes, be slightly afraid that I might get taken out before I do anything. We see this perpetrator, this sicko, as well as criminals all over Manhattan, all over the country, not respecting the law, feeling they can do what they want. Only when we collectively push back, fight back, and act will this lessen and hopefully stop.
Yeah, it's sad. I do think people need situational awareness, and if you see something, say something. Make the phone call. Call the police. Try and get on top of it. Guy walking through the streets with a rifle. That's a moment you need to call the police. Bill.
So that's Bill Stanton, apparently a former NYPD officer, talking about people need to have, he and Hannity, talking about people have situational awareness for these situations. Maybe, Hannity, you train in MMA fighting, also in gun training. I'm sure you'd have done something completely different from a guy rolling down the street with a huge ass rifle in his hands, because that never happens in this country. It's only happened with white nationalists that roll down the streets and start intimidating folks in their neighborhoods and start chanting things that they don't want these types of people in their country anymore. Go into and attack folks that are having, children's story time readings because they're in drag. Those types of things where violence is presented to us right in the streets. We need to have situational awareness because, these victims were too cowardly to not step up and put their face in front of the gun of a guy who's currently going to shoot people, because he's not going to use that gun. That's the problem. But don't forget, remember Timber Chet. I will bring him up every time. Remember Timber Chet, representative from Tennessee, after those children got shot in that school. He said, I told my daddy told me this all the time. If someone wants to take you out and they don't have any regard for their life, there's nothing you can do about it. So we're not going to do anything about it. You're on your own. But the problem is calls for defunding the police. Respect the police again. What does that mean? Where's the gauge for when enough people respect the police enough that disregard everyone's lives and don't respect the people that they're supposed to be protecting and serving? When that part switches and we stop putting money towards these therapists and these psychologists, which we don't. The whole defund the police talk, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. No, it didn't happen. They keep saying that it happened. Police funding continues to increase and things like this continue to happen. But you're supposed to come out there with your MMA training and confront a guy with a long rifle that has the right to do that stuff, conceal it or not, because this is the United States of America. I wonder if Bill Stanton, that retired NYPD officer, cares enough about folks that roll down the street with long guns out, and maybe there should be some rifle training for people who want to stop them. That's what he said. That's what he said. You should be trained to confront people with long guns that come into your neighborhoods and in the streets and start brandishing it and threatening to kill you. You should kill them first. That's what he said. I wonder if it applies to this situation.
Yo, what the fuck? Look. Put it in the car. Hey, these are legal citizens, you fucking pieces of shit. Fuck you. Put it in the car. Hey, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Look. Put him in the car. Hey, I got the shit on the wheel. Don't worry about it. Fuck, still, dude, what the fuck? What kind of shit? They're putting hands on him, dude, and you're putting... That's bullshit. What's wrong with you? Fucking hitting people. Fuck. Hey, you almost ran me over, homie. What the fuck? Back the fuck out, homie. I will knock you the fuck out. Get out of here. Hey, you forgot to cover your mad face. Get out of the way. Hey, you guys are not supposed to be hitting people. Back up. Stay back.
I just saw a gang of people with long guns pulling up into parking lots and harassing and assaulting citizens in the streets with long guns, cocked them, pointed it at them, and said, "Get the F back." I wonder if Bill Stanton thinks that maybe there should be enough citizens in the streets pulling out their guns and shooting them in the head. I'm just curious because that's what he said should happen. People with long guns run up in the streets and we have to stop them. Maybe there's some MMA training you could implement and use on those guys as they walk up and point long rifles at you. Maybe. It's weird how only certain people should be disarmed in the country. Unidentified people with masks on 98% of the time, running up and pointing guns at you in unmarked cars. There's no official vehicles here. There's no official identification. There's no warrants. So I'm wondering, does that apply to everyone else? I feel like we know the answer to that question. Last little bit on this. I know we're about to go over. So anybody that's taking off, I'll see you guys soon. Appreciate you being here, but I only got a few more minutes to talk about this. I'm sure you guys saw this aspect of this story of this NYC shooter who tragically killed, I believe, 3 to 4 people. Charlie Kirk had thoughts. I mean, one, and it's based in racism. So in response to this, Charlie Kirk said, "Was just in New York City all weekend with our family. Never felt safe. So many people in the city who don't belong. Praying for all those involved." Which people did he see that don't belong? He said so many people in the city who don't belong. Didn't say this guy, this one guy shouldn't be on the streets because he has mental health issues and has access to guns and apparently has a homicidal tendencies. Not that guy shouldn't be on the streets with a gun. People, so many people in the city who don't belong because he was afraid because he's a bitch. He's so afraid of so many people with this picture that he then posted of this brown guy who committed the shooting. So many people don't belong. This is how rhetoric then leads to people implementing policies that will make sure that they exclude and discriminate against certain folks having these rights. And then the way that we think about how those people are a danger to society. And if they're a danger to society, if they look brown enough, we apparently should take our ICE agents who have long guns and harass people in the communities as well as American citizens and apparently have a mass deportation policy. This is how rhetoric that then gets consumed by so many people, it turns into them accepting these types of policies that are harmful to everybody. White supremacy always leads to destruction. That's how you become a third world country. With people like this saying things like that and ignoring smart people like Mehdi Hasan who responded to it. I mentioned Mehdi Hasan before because he did that Jubilee thing, but he responded to Charlie Kirk too. He said, quoted him, "So many people in the city who don't belong." He said, "Kirk, who's an anti-immigrant Islamophobe, wrote this post without knowing at the time, I assume, that the NYPD officer who gave his life today was a Bangladeshi Muslim immigrant. Of course he didn't know. I mean, he doesn't care to know. He probably did know. Who cares? He's afraid of so many people who don't belong in the city that he doesn't live in. Okay. Last thought. My last thought. Happy for you guys who hung on. Here's the NYPD commissioner talking about that fallen officer who was working security in front of the building, I believe, where that shooter came in and killed several people. She gave a little bit of a tribute to him and who he was and who he left behind. But, you know, Charlie Kirk doesn't care about those things because he's too busy afraid of so many people who don't belong here.
But today, 4 innocent victims are dead. Among them is NYPD police officer Didarul Islam, 36 years old, 4 years on the job. Officer Islam was married with 2 young boys. His wife is pregnant with their 3rd child. He's assigned to the 4-7 precinct in the Bronx. He was doing the job that we asked him to do. He put himself in harm's way. He made the ultimate sacrifice, shot in cold blood, wearing a uniform that stood for the promise that he made to this city. He died as he lived, a hero. I want to extend my profound sympathies to all of the victims and their families, and to the brave NYPD cops who today lost a brother. There are still many questions that we have to answer, and we will answer them. But for now, our city is in mourning for the innocent lives lost. May their memories be a blessing.
To the people who are afraid of brown folks that are even in law enforcement, that have joined the military, that are veterans, the type of people who are swept up in these mass deportation raids, which we've seen, American citizens served the country, and then they're running them out of the country, harassing them, assaulting them, and beating up anyone that's near them. That's not the right kind of American. Who cares what you've done for the country? Who cares if you followed the rules? Who cares if you're coming out of an immigration court hearing that they say is the process that you're supposed to go about for immigration? The policy is so many people who don't belong here. He doesn't care, man. He just doesn't care. None of them do. So that's that. Death and destruction. That's how these things roll. I never really acknowledge too many of you guys saying things, but I know you guys have stuff that's smart and wise that are going on in the comment section. But I've gone over. If I wasn't 5 minutes late, we'd be ending just on time. Glad you guys are here. Appreciate you here on another Tuesday. The middle of the week is damn near upon us. It's about to happen. This hour goes by way too fast, and I end up slowly more and more encroaching into John's hour. So tell him I say hey for a few guys who hung around. Appreciate you guys. Go give him a little bit of watch party love. Let him know we've been here. Only do caps one time because I guess that's not a good thing to do in people's chats. I don't know. Who knows? I'm new at this. See you guys tomorrow. Appreciate you. Maybe we'll have some good news. I don't know what that could be, but I hope so. See you guys then. See you later, Mom.